Ever get that feeling? Like something you always took for granted, totally believed in,
Yeah.
suddenly makes you stop and think, wait a minute, what if?
Yeah.
Like maybe you're walking along, right?
Yeah.
And you always assumed the sky was just blue.
Yeah.
End of story.
Makes sense.
Then bam, sunset hits, colors you never even seen before, throws your whole worldview out of whack.
I see. So we're talking about those moments where it kind of shakes up everything you thought you knew.
Exactly. And today's deep dive. Oh, we've got a story that does exactly that. We're jumping into a fictional world that takes on a centuries-old debate straight from the Talmud.
Oh, this I gotta hear.
We're talking about this Hebrew text. It translates to the Siamese yeshiva student. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Really makes you look at the idea of one, singular in a whole new way.
Okay, so we've got this fictional story and the Talmud. What's the connection?
Well, the text, it centers around this really interesting question, a real head-scratcher the rabbis debated. How much should a firstborn son, but with two heads, how much should he be redeemed for?
Two heads. Now that's getting specific.
Right. Now, for those who might not be familiar, there's this Jewish tradition, Pidyon Haben, basically symbolizes the special status of firstborn sons. Goes all the way back to the Exodus story.
I see. So about a month after a son is born, parents, unless they're Cohen or Levi, they do this ritual symbolic payment to a Cohen.
Exactly. Deeply rooted tradition. So you can imagine the rabbis hitting this question and going, hold on, what do we do when there are two heads involved?
Double the payment. Each head its own individual. Yeah, I can see how that would spark some debate.
Centuries of debate, actually. And that's where our story comes in. Imagine this. Prestigious yeshiva, Israel. Students are in deep study. The air is buzzing. Everyone's debating, discussing. Then in walk David and Yosef Kaufman.
Wait, who are the Kaufmans?
Conjoined twins. They take two heads are better than one. Pretty literally.
Oh, wow. Talk about shaking things up.
And the story does not hold back. Describes the other students' reactions, jaws dropping, eyebrows practically disappearing. Total chaos, but the kind that makes you laugh and think at the same time. Forces you to really examine those assumptions about what's normal.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So how did the twins handle all this attention?
That's the best part. They totally own it. David and Yosef, they're witty, sharp as a tack, and they navigate this whole yeshiva world with so much self-awareness, it's almost disarming.
Really makes you think.
Right. Like their first meeting with the Rosh Yeshiva, they stroll in completely at ease and casually request double tuition.
Just like that.
Just like that. It's hilarious, almost audacious. But that one request throws a wrench into the whole system. The Rosh Yeshiva, he's forced to deal with the reality, the logistics, even the philosophy of having two students who share a body.
Whoa. So it's not just about having a second chair ready. It's challenging the whole idea of what it means to be a single student.
Exactly. Do they need separate study partners?
I was just thinking that. Imagine trying to keep up with two different learning styles at once.
And they ask for it. They get that their needs might be different. But for the Rosh Yeshiva, it highlights everything, all the complexities, in a whole new light.
Yeah.
He's not just dealing with where they physically sit, he's dealing with the potential upheaval of integrating them into a community where tradition, established norms, those are everything.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. Makes you think about those anxieties we all have when something or someone just doesn't fit the mold.
Exactly. And it's that struggle, that bumping up against the unexpected, that's at the heart of the whole Talmudic debate we started with.
Right, like it's not just about calculating, okay, two heads, so we just double it.
Exactly. It's about the whole framework,
Right?
The ritual, but even bigger than that, how we decide someone's value, how we see individuality.
Makes you wonder, what were the rabbis thinking trying to figure this out?
Well, they had to dig deep. Is each head its own being, deserving of a separate, which I'm akalik, a separate redemption? Or are they a package deal? Is it their togetherness, their uniqueness as one unit that's being recognized?
So we've got this ancient question, and then boom, these twins walk into the yeshiva.
And it's brilliant, because suddenly it's not just some theoretical debate anymore. The Rosh Yeshiva is freaking out, worried about upsetting everyone, about the resources, it's exactly what anyone would feel, trying to make room for something totally new.
Because let's face it, inclusion. It's messy sometimes,
Let's
right?
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
It means rethinking everything, all those systems we have in place. And yeah, sometimes it means admitting we're uncomfortable with what we don't get.
Exactly. And this story, it doesn't sugarcoat that. It uses humor to show how ridiculous we can be when something doesn't fit our neat little boxes.
Like that whole thing with the study partners. On the surface, it's just oh, how do we make this work practically?
But there's got to be more to it than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. It gets at the real meaning of inclusion.
Yeah.
Way more than just making space at the table. It's about truly considering individual needs, their perspectives, even if it means throwing out our old playbook.
And that's something everyone can relate to, no matter who you are.
100%. We've all been there, that moment when what we thought was true bumps up against someone else's reality. New coworker, maybe a family member who challenges everything you thought you stood for.
So what's the takeaway? What do we do when that happens?
This story, I think it's saying, come at it with openness. Be ready to learn, even to change your mind a little. You never know what you might discover.
And sometimes those big lessons, they come from the most unexpected places.
Exactly. Just like this Talmudic question, it seems kind of out there, right? Two-headed firstborn. But it makes us think about identity, about community, about what it means to be human. Pretty deep stuff. Okay, so we've got this Talmudic debate swirling around, these twins making their grand entrance. But what about the Rosh Yeshiva? How does he handle this totally unprecedented situation?
Well, let's not forget, those twins, they came in strong, right? Double tuition, separate study partners. They knew exactly what they were about.
Exactly. They owned their uniqueness. And that's what I think really got to the Rosh Yeshiva.
Yeah.
He saw past the physical, you know, really looked at them, the individuals, saw their eagerness to learn, the respect they had for the yeshiva. And that's when it clicked. You know, their inherent worth is shown through.
It's like that's the heart of inclusion, isn't it? Not just making room, but truly seeing the value in everyone.
Exactly. And the Rosh Yeshiva's decision, oh man, it's powerful. He's not just dealing with these two students. He's setting an example, choosing compassion over fear, even when he's stepping into the unknown.
And that ties back to the Talmud, doesn't it? Those rabbis, they weren't just counting heads. They were wrestling with something much deeper.
100%. What makes a soul? Who deserves to be recognized, respected? Those questions, they're timeless.
And maybe a little uncomfortable sometimes, right?
Absolutely. But that's what David and Yosef make us do. They force us to look inward. Are we seeing past the surface, past the initial shock to that shared humanity?
And approaching those differences not with fear, but curiosity.
Right. The Kaufman twins, they're like, hey, we're different, and that's okay. They flip the script, show us that embracing our differences, that's where the real beauty lies.
That's where we find true unity.
So yeah, we've covered a lot of ground. Ancient debates, fictional stories, but the real world stuff, that's what stays with you, right? How do we define what makes a person? How do we build a world where everyone feels seen? Those questions, they're worth pondering.
They really are.
So next time you encounter something, someone who challenges your assumptions, remember those twins. Remember the Rosh Yeshiva choosing compassion. And let their story be a reminder, an invitation to approach the world with open hearts and minds. We might just surprise ourselves with what we find.